Hello, budget bakers. Today we are making a delicious white chocolate pumpkin cake bar recipe. This recipe is very economical. It should cost somewhere between $4 and $5 to make the whole recipe. And it's super easy and completely made from scratch. So let's get started. All right, so I have an 8x8 baking dish lined with parchment paper. So my trick for getting the parchment paper to stay in the baking dish is I wrinkled it up and then put it in, and it does help it stay in the dish a little bit better until you're ready for it. Otherwise it pops right out. I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees and prepared my mixer with my paddle attachment, and here we go. All right, so like I said, this recipe, super economical, super tasty. I made it last year for the first time, and I thought to myself, I need to make this for my budget baking friends this fall because it's just good. It's delish. All right, so we are going to start by mixing our wet ingredients first. So I have got 1 egg that's going to go in, which fills up about 1/4 of a cup of a measuring cup, in case you ever needed to know that. And then I've got 1/3 of a cup of vegetable oil here that's going in, and we're going to mix that with our sugars. So I've got 1/2 cup here of white sugar and a packed 1/4 cup of brown sugar. And when I believe it, yeah, 1/4. When I say it's packed, it's packed. I pack it in there. So let's get that rolling and get that mixed together. I don't know if you guys remember or not, but a couple of videos ago, my mixer was a little unstable. Oh, which, by the way, I have come up with a name for my mixer. Thank you, everyone, for your help. So I can't call it her anymore because its name is Uncle Frank. So it is now a he. So Uncle Frank had this bolt, I guess you could say, that was popping out. And so he was a little unsturdy. So I popped the bolt back in, and he's good to go. All right, this looks really good. It's mixed together really well. Hang on 1 second here. You know, sometimes brown sugar gets those little pieces in it. There was one. Like those little hard pieces. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so now we're going to mix our pumpkin, which is 1 cup of pumpkin, into the mix. Yep, pumpkin. Put our pumpkin in there. Now this is canned pumpkin. I do like to make my pumpkin from my pumpkin puree from scratch, but I'm filming this at a time where we just don't have pumpkins out yet. So I am using pumpkin puree from a can. That's the one thing that's not totally homemade here. All right, so let's get that mixed together. And then once this looks good, we might have to scrape it down. I'm gonna grab a spatula just in case I have to do that. Oh, it looks good. And then we're gonna add our dry ingredients. So let me tell you what I've got here. So this recipe is a little interesting because it calls for all-purpose flour, but it also calls for self-rising flour. It also has some cinnamon mixed in. So what we've got is 1 cup of all-purpose flour and 1/2 a cup of self-rising flour, which I made myself because that is more budget-friendly, more economical. So to make 1/2 cup of self-rising flour, I took 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, added 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, and a little pinch of salt. And that's how I came up with my own self-rising flour. So in addition, we've got 1 cup, like I said, of all-purpose flour and another half a teaspoon of baking powder. All right, so let's get this going on low. Don't want a big mess here. I'm gonna just fold my plate and start putting it in. Ooh, I smell that cinnamon and that pumpkin, and let me tell you, it smells delicious. Okay, so we're gonna let that go, and once it looks like it's mixed pretty well, I'm going to go ahead and scrape the sides. Oh, it smells so good. I just gotta tell you, so good. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and scrape anyway, because I'm just a scraper. But because we put all of our wet ingredients in first, it's really mixed well. So I'm just gonna let it do its thing here. I think I'm making a bigger mess. And you guys know I don't want to waste any of it. Because why? Deanna doesn't waste. Okay. Turn it back on. And now I'll show you what it looks like, but it's a wet mixture, so to say. So now we've got all that. We've added, let me tell you everything that we've added. We've added our egg, our oil, our sugars. We've added our pumpkin. And we've also added our flours and baking powder and our cinnamon. And last but certainly not least, we're gonna add our white chocolate chips, 1 cup. Because to me, there's something about white chocolate and pumpkin that just go hand in hand. And to be honest with you, you know what else would be tasty in here? Dried cranberries. Oh, that would taste really good too. You could also do, I don't do any icing or anything on these, although we could do like a cream cheese icing, and then we could sprinkle it with some white chocolate chips and some cranberries. Oh, delish. All right, let's get these white chocolate chips mixed in. All right, looks good. Now, just so you know, it is a fairly wet mixture, okay? And you're gonna see that here in a moment. So scrape this down just a smidge. But really, there's not much on it anyway. All right. Let me get a little paper towel here. Made a little mess. All right, so we are going to now pour this into our prepared 8x8 baking dish. Now, I've chosen to use parchment paper. You could also use non-stick foil, not regular foil, but non-stick, the Reynolds non-stick foil for this recipe as well. Whichever you have, I say go for it and use it. All right, so here we go. We are going to go ahead and add this in. All right, you see that? Look at that consistency. The perfect pumpkin cake, right? Looks good to me, and it smells divine, because there's something about pumpkin and cinnamon that's just comforting. I don't know, fall baking is just comforting to me in general. You know, the smells, the weather, like for instance today, it's a beautiful day outside. It's not going to be hot at all. So I have the windows open and the fans on, but I had to shut the front door. Why, you may ask? Because the neighbor was cutting the grass and the lawnmower was like really loud. So I shut the front door, but I will be opening it back up again. Because I have like one of those storm doors where you can lift the glass and then there's a screen. And I had the glass lifted up and the screen down. All right, hang on 1 second here. I'm just gonna try and clean that off a little bit. Beautiful, it looks beautiful, it smells beautiful. I'm gonna show you the beauty. Check it out. Now, if you wanted to, if you love white chocolate like I do, you could actually sprinkle some extra white chocolate chips on top if you want to. I am going to just pop it right into the oven. I'm going in, friends. I'm just going to put it in there. It's preheated to 350. It's ready for me. This is going to bake for about 50 to 55 minutes. Normally when I bake my sweetbreads, because you guys know I make a lot of different kinds of sweetbreads, from pumpkin to banana to blueberry lemon, all different kinds. I have a cinnamon raisin one that's really good too. Anyway, I bake those at 350 for 55 minutes. So I know my oven pretty well, so I'm going to go ahead and just pop this in for 55 minutes and let it bake up and fill my house with the wonderful aroma of pumpkin and cinnamon. And then we will be back for a look and a taste. So let me go ahead and get this put in the oven. And I'm going to set my timer for 55. Now, if I was you, I would start at 50. I would start at the 50-minute mark and then check it from there, see if it needed another 5 minutes or so. But you'll know when it's done. You could always test it by putting like a knife or a fork or a toothpick or a cake tester. I actually have a cake tester in the middle. And whatever you choose to place into the middle, when it comes out, it should have little bitty crumbs on it if it's fully baked. If the batter is still wet when you pull the tester out, you need to bake it some more. Another sure sign is it'll have like a matte finish on top when it is fully baked. So the center is typically the last to bake. So you want to keep your eye out, make sure that the sides are pulling away a little bit. The sides of the cake are pulling away from the baking dish, and that the center is not wet or shiny, that it has a matte finish. And then you should be done. All right, I will meet you back here. I'm going to go ahead and clean up for a bit, and I will meet you back here so we can take a look at the finished product. All right, here is our cake bars fresh out of the oven. I picked up the bars by the parchment paper and moved it right out of our baking dish to cool. Well, we are back with our white chocolate pumpkin cake bars. So, as you can see, they have been removed from the baking dish. Super easy to just lift up the parchment paper and move them out. So they've been cooling a little bit here on the counter. And I went ahead and sliced a piece. I'm going to slice another piece so that you guys can see. And then we're going to give it a taste. Now, mind you, it's still very warm. Like there's steam coming out. But I wanted to let you take a look. Look at that. It looks so moist, doesn't it? This is definitely a moist cake or cake bar. So what we're going to do, we are going to cut them into bars like this. Not going to leave it as the cake at all. I'm going to cut them each into bars. You can also cut them into bites, whichever you prefer. I like to call them cake bars, so I'll be cutting them into bar shapes. Just like that. Perfect. Let's go ahead and have a taste. Now, like I said earlier, you can make a cream cheese icing for this, which would consist of cream cheese, maybe a dab of milk, some powdered sugar, a little bit of vanilla, and you can, come up with your own recipe for that depending on how sweet you like your cream cheese icing. Or what you can do is you can create a drizzle with some powdered sugar, maybe some cinnamon or some pumpkin pie spice, a little bit of water or milk, and mix that together, then just drizzle it over the top. However, I like mine as is. because the white chocolate does sweeten it up rather nicely. So I am going to take a bite. Hopefully it's not too hot. Pumpkin. Pumpkin. I taste pumpkin, and I like it a lot. Let me try one more. Just one more bite. It's very good. It's not overly sweet, but the white chocolate chips do add a nice touch of sweetness to it. I hope you guys love it. Like I said, $4 to $5 to make the whole thing. It's definitely worth a try. If you've got some frozen pumpkin pie puree from last year, use that up. It will be perfect for this recipe. If not, again, you can use the canned pumpkin, or you can go and buy a pumpkin and make your puree. I love doing that. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you had fun. I had fun baking with you. I would absolutely love for you to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It's a free way to support your creators. And if you want to be reminded of every time I have a video come out, click the little bell and you'll get a notification when I have something new that you might like to look at. Okay, friends, thank you again for being here. Happy baking. I'll see you soon.